Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Bhad Paramahansa Parivrtika Acharya Ashtotir Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti-yoga Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnu Bhad Paramahansa Parivrtika Acharya Ashtotir Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamadiriyet. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance and classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Notice the pronunciation. Irrevocable. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this first day of December, Holy Ekadashi, and the anniversary of Krishna speaking the Bhagavad Gita on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-yoga Swami Prabhupada. And today we are reading from the 9th canto, Liberation, 5th chapter, Durvāsā Muni's Life Spared. And we'll read text 23 and 24. I'll read 23 myself, and we'll chant 24 together. It's on there. Yes. Okay, I just read the Sanskrit real quick. Samvatsaro tyagatavad yavata nagato gataha munis tadarshana kangsho raja bhaksho babuvaha. Durvāsā Muni had left the place of Mahārāja Ambarīṣa, and as long as he had not returned for 1 complete year, the king had fasted, maintaining himself simply by drinking water. Text 24. Gate? I can't see it from here. Gate? Gate ata Durvāsasi so Ambarīṣo dvijopayogati pavitram aharat risher vimoksham vyasanam chavikshya mene svaviryam cha paranubhavam gate tadurvāsasi Ambarīṣo dvijopayogat pavitram aharat rishe vimoksham vyasanam chavikshya mene svaviryam cha paranubhavam gate tu Durvāsā Ambarīṣo dvijopayogat pavitram aharat rishe vimoksham vyasanam chavikshya mene svaviryam cha paranubhavam gate tu Durvāsā Ambarīṣo dvijopayogat pavitram aharat rishe vimoksham vyasanam chavikshya mene svaviryam cha paranubhavam Who's first? Gate tu Durvāsā Ambarīṣo dvijopayogat pavitram aharat rishe vimoksham vyasanam chavikshya mene svaviryam cha paranubhavam. Go ahead. Gate tu Durvāsā Ambarīṣo dvijopayogat pavitram aharat rishe vimoksham vyasanam chavikshya mene svaviryam cha paranubhavam. Dilesh, you want to try? Gate? Oh. Gate tu Durvāsā Ambarīṣo dvijopayogat pavitram aharat rishe vimoksham vyasanam chavikshya mene svaviryam cha paranubhavam. One more. Gate tu Durvāsā Ambarīṣo dvijopayogat pavitram aharat rishe vimoksham vyasanam chavikshya mene svaviryam cha paranubhavam. Ladies? Gate tu Durvāsā Ambarīṣo dvijopayogat pavitram aharat rishe vimoksham vyasanam chavikshya mene svaviryam cha paranubhavam. Gate tu Durvāsā Ambarīṣo dvijopayogat pavitram aharat Vishe vimoksham vyasanam cha vikshya. Mene saviryam cha paranubhavam. Anyone online?
Gate Durvāsā Muni.
Gate Durvāsā Muni.
Vijo paragati paritramaharat.
Vijo yogati pavitramaharat.
Rishe moksham vyasanam cha vikshya.
Rishe moksham vyasanam cha vikshya.
Mene svaviryam cha paranubhavam.
Mene svaviryam cha paranubhavam. Gate, on his return, Atha, then, Durvāsasi, the great mystic yogi Durvāsā, Saha, he, the king, Ambarīṣa, Mahārāja Ambarīṣa, Dvija Upayoga, most suitable for a pure Brahman, Adipavitram, very pure food, Aharat, gave him to eat, and he also ate. Rishehi, of the great sage, Vimoksham, release, Vyasanam, from the great danger of being burned by the Sudarshan Chakra. Cha, and, Vikshya, seeing, Mene, considered, Swaviryam, about his own power, Cha, also, Pada Anubhavam, because of his pure devotion to the Supreme Lord. Translation. After 1 year, when Durvāsā Muni had returned, King Ambarīṣa sumptuously fed him all varieties of pure food, and then he himself also ate. When the king saw that the Brahman Durvāsā had been released from the great danger of being burned, he could understand that by the grace of the Lord, he himself was also powerful. But he did not take any credit, for everything had been done by the Lord. Purport. A devotee like Mahārāja Ambarīṣa is certainly always busy in many activities. Of course, this material world is full of dangers that one has to meet. But the devotee, because of his full dependence on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is never disturbed. The vivid example is Mahārāja Ambarīṣa. He was the emperor of the entire world and had many duties to perform. And in the course of these duties, there were many disturbances created by persons like Durvāsā Muni. But the king tolerated everything, patiently depending fully on the mercy of the Lord. The Lord, however, is situated in everyone's heart, sarvasya chaham hridisannivishtaha, and he manages things as he desires. Thus, although Mahārāja Ambarīṣa was faced with many disturbances, the Lord, being merciful to him, managed things so nicely that in the end, Durvāsā Muni and Mahārāja Ambarīṣa became great friends and parted cordially on the basis of Bhakti-yoga. After all, Durvāsā Muni was convinced of the power of Bhakti-yoga, although he himself was a great mystic yogi. Therefore, as stated by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, 647, Yoginam abhisarvesham madgaten antaratmana shraddhavam bhajate yomam same yuktatamo mataha. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, I consider to be most ultimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. Close quote. Thus it is a fact that a devotee is the topmost yogi, as proved in the dealings of Mahārāja Ambarīṣa with Durvāsā Muni. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So, this is another lesson that we're learning, as we learned with Prahlāda Mahārāja, that the power, one of the great powers of a pure devotion and a pure devotee is to give one the ability to tolerate almost inconceivable difficulties in the course of one's devotion. Tolerate them without being disturbed. This is the key element. The yogis, they can also, classically Prabhupada would explain when the yogis, if they want to perform austerities, right, and tapasya and permanent penances and austerities. So the classic yogis would, it's in the middle of summer, says, oh, now's a great time to really perform some austerities and go out in the desert and build some fires around there and meditate like that. The sun's beating down from the side, from the top, and the fire's on the side, and you're tolerating it somehow, transcending. You see, it's wintertime. All right, let's go up the Gangotri and take a bath in the origin of the Ganges. We have to break some ice and dive in and tolerate. So, plus we find Prabhupada said even today, because he lived in Prayag, right, for 13 years doing his business. And he went to several of these Kumbh Melas. And he said he saw there, so many yogis. They come down from the Himalayas, it's not so far. Because they all want to get mukti, and there's a way you can do it, just take a bath at the right time in that confluence. So, and he told the devotees, because he took the devotees there twice, actually 77 and also early in the early 70s, that be careful of the yogis, because they have all these powers, And he said some of them look like they're like 25 years old, but they could be 200, 300 years old, because they're actually practicing that pranayama, slowing down the respiration, and that's slowing down their aging process. So, but they have these mystic powers, and if you look them in the eye, they may think you're challenging them, and they get on to all kinds of trouble. So you be very deferential to the yogis. But the funny thing is, I remember reading this story about some Kumbh Mela, probably mid-80s, I was here, mid-90s. And it was in National Geographic. I don't know if they still have that magazine, but that's a long-time magazine. And on the cover of the magazine, they had a young girl, or maybe 20 years old, and her forehead was all tattooed with the name of Ram, in Sanskrit. This was their cover, and Prabhupada said that in that one that he was there, I think on his own without the devotees, that there was what we would take to all a rumble, between two groups of yogis. Because they all wanted to bathe at the exact time in the Ganges, and there just wasn't room for everybody, So the yogis were given all deference. You go first, But there were two groups of them, and they were fighting with each other, to who can go in there first. So also they can get liberation. The last one was like inconceivable. 100 million people came, right? Because there's more and more people. And there was one of our devotees here, David. He comes and he goes, but he likes it here. He was there, and he had emailed me from there somehow through his phone or something, that he's there at the big festival. And then the next day I heard there was this terrible accident because there wasn't enough room, and so many people were just sleeping on the bank of the river. And then the time came, and there was a big rush, and many became trampled, and there were a whole bunch of deaths and injuries. Hare Krishna. Now, all in order to become liberated, right? But devotees are assured that if you just practice Krishna consciousness, you'll automatically be liberated. Liberation becomes insignificant. Now, I pointed this out several times, but I think it's worth repeating. If we read the Bhagavad Gita, and you get to chapter 13, and there's a series of verses, 8 through 11, I think it is, where there's 20-odd elements of knowledge that we have to try to cultivate. And it all begins with humility. Amanitvam. Amanitvam. Adambitvam. Now, adambitvam is say with pridelessness. But another meaning of it, or a deeper meaning, is not just pride, but false pride, meaning you're a hypocrite. You're trying to be something you're not. And oftentimes this manifests amongst those who are not really serious but want to appear so, that they'll attend some meeting or go to church or go to a temple in order so that they can then claim that they're actually, but they may even be atheists. But they know in that particular community that they're in, it's important to have it. So that's another, a big thing amongst the materialists. It's trying to be something you're not, putting on a show. So that's the second thing, Adam Bitvam, a complete lack of hypocrisy, honesty with oneself and also with others. So it goes on like that, and then one of the famous elements there, maybe some of you know this, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Dosha, Anudarshanam. So to be always, Anudarshanam means always be cognizant of the, I mean, Prabhupada's called the evils, and I remember when Vijay was here, he really wanted me to revise that word, you know, because what's so evil about birth, you know, disease? Well, if you look it up in a dictionary, evil has different meanings, and one of them is something that causes suffering, you see. That can be called an evil too, not just an evil person who's nasty and cruel, you know, that's another thing. Anyway, the evils of birth, old age, disease, and death. This is meant to provide an impetus for us to take up the spiritual path. It's not something that a pure devotee is ultimately worried that much about. That's why Lord Chaitanya, he's giving the example, Nadanang Nadanang Sundari, the famous verse, the fourth verse of the Shikshastika. He's teaching us how to pray, you see. So he says, I don't want wealth, you see. Now he said, you know, we have to come to that point. We have to try to, I don't want wealth, I don't want a beautiful wife, I don't want kavitam. Kavitam means great learning that, you know, people will honor me for. Jagadisha kamaye, kamaye. I don't have this material desire for these things. And then the key one, he says, Mama janmani janmani shade bhagavad bhakti rahoitaki tvayi. I hope you know what that line means. That birth after birth, let me simply be a servant of your lotus feet. Janmani janmani bhagavad, mama janmani janmani ishwade bhagavad bhakti rahoitaki tvayi. So have unmotivated devotional service to you. Not just devotional service, because devotional service can also be motivated, but it's not pure. And that's what the Karma Yoga chapter is all about. Okay, you can't immediately take up devotion to me, then try to be detached from the fruits of your action. You see? If you don't, you know, give them away. Give them away for a good cause, somehow or other. Don't become attached to it. So that's also part of this prayer, that I'm not attached to all these things that everyone else says. All I want is service to you, birth after birth. What kind of service? Ahoitaki. Unmotivated. That clinches it, you see. So Ambarīṣa Mahārāja, he personified that. Even though he had all facilities for material enjoyment, he's a king, right? But it doesn't appear like he was really enjoying much. Savaimana Krishna Badaravinda. He was doing all of the things that a pure devotee does. And so he became empowered to tolerate the, you know, what the Durvāsa's terrible attempt to kill him by invoking this demoness, which is a body made completely of fire. This demon appears again in the Bhagavatam. When Krishna goes to kill Paundraka, those of you who read Krishna book or the 10th canto, this Paundraka, he was a comical figure. He actually thought he was Vishnu. And he sent a messenger to Krishna in Dwarka, you know, that you should please give up your symbols, give them up to me. You know, I've come to deliver everyone. So everyone laughed. They laughed in the assembly. So Krishna sent the messenger back. Yes, you know, if I don't accept you as Vishnu, and therefore let's have a fight. I agree. You know, that's what Paundraka said. And if you don't give them to me, then I'll have to conquer you. So here's his Paundraka. But he had an ally, the king of Kashi. Kashi is another name for Benares, Varanasi. So Paundraka came out, challenged Krishna. You know, and Krishna said, well, you wanted to have my Sudarshan chakra. It's the same Sudarshan chakra that appears in Ambarīṣa. Here it is. Boom. He cuts his head off. Wow. That's the end of Paundraka. But Kashi, the king of Kashi, was also fighting. He cut his head off and threw it into the city. And it's described that, you know, the residents came. They thought maybe it's Krishna's head. They didn't know. Then they saw it was their beloved king's head. And they were aghast, you know. And so they want to take revenge. So they contracted, I guess, with a shaman or a yogi to invoke this Kritya, the same fiery demoness that just goes and whatever you direct to do, they'll burn. You see. So as she started coming to Dwarka, and all the residents were panicking, and coming to Krishna, please save us, And he laughed. He was playing chess. Actually, it's not actually the classic chess, but anyway, he was at ease in his palace. So don't worry. So he just told the chakra, go take care of it. So the chakra came and did exactly what it did to the one in Durvāsā. It annihilated the Kritya, went on to Kashi, Benares, and burned the whole thing down. And so that's the power of this demoness. So here's Ambarīṣa. He's just standing there. He's completely innocent. What did he do? He drank a little water to break the fast during the time, the Ekadashi. And then Ambarīṣa saw this as a great offense because he's taking breakfast before his guest. So then he's beholding his dangerous demoness was killed, and then it comes after him. So now, if he was really Krishna conscious, he would say, "Take me." It's actually a great boon to be killed by the chakra, right? You get merge something. But no, he started running here and there. He went to Shiva, he went to Brahma. We can't help you. You got the chakra after you. You got the Sudarshan chakra. So finally he goes to Vishnu, and I think it's mentioned elsewhere. This is the Vaikuntha planet within this universe. There's a Vaikuntha planet that's here. This is the Dhruva Loka. That's where he went. So that's called Shveta Dweep, and there's, I think, Shiradaksha Vishnu's there. And so he went to Vishnu, and he begged him, well, please release me from your chakra. And then there's this startling verse. He says, I can't. I'm completely under control of my devotees. That's what he says. Aham bhakta padadino. Aham bhakta padadino. Na svatantra. Svatantra, I'm not independent. So then there's some other famous verses. We had very nice discourse by Ashram Maharaj on these verses. And sadhavo vidiyam mayam sadhunam vidiyam taham. I don't know anything but the sadhus, such as Ambarīṣa, and they don't know anything but me. So finally he tells them, okay, look, you have to go back down and get the mercy of Ambarīṣa, apologize to him, and then everything will be all right. So that's, of course, what happened. And just the power, of Ambarīṣa. This ability to tolerate is a tremendous mystic power. We saw it with Prahlāda, of course, in the 7th canto, famously. And it's not that you're just gritting your teeth and bearing all the pain. It's that you're so much depending on Krishna, you don't even feel it. That's what Haridas Thakur, Korloche Sanya, I was on your back, that's why I didn't feel anything. But it's the same principle. To have this ability to tolerate, this is the first quality of the sadhus. The famous verse by Kapila Dev, Titikshava Kanunika Suridaksarvadehinam. To be tolerant, compassionate, to be the best friend of all living entities, and Prabhupada makes the point on the tape, not just the human beings, of course the animals, especially the cows and like that. Ajata Shatravak, having no enemy. Now that doesn't mean you have no enemy in the classic sense, because Durvāsā became the enemy of Ambarīṣa until he was reformed, of course. And the son, Hiranyakashipu, remained the enemy of his son until the final, he was killed. So, but you don't have any enmity toward others. You don't regard others as an enemy. You're simply tolerated. It's all in Krishna's hands, whatever he wants, whatever he wants for me. So that's a state far beyond the desire for mukti, you see. Mukti, the famous verse, this wonderful verse by Bilva Mangal Thakur, right near the end of his Krishna Karnamrita. Prabhupada quote this verse. He says, Bhaktim Bhaktis tvayi, tvayi means he's speaking to Krishna. This is amazing. Bilva Mangal, he was always seeing Krishna, not with his eyes, but in his heart, his spiritual eyes. So he's always with Krishna. And he said, Bhaktis tvayi sthidatara bhagavan nidisa daive nanakpadati divnikishora murti. So the first two lines, he's saying, if one is firmly fixed, sthidatara, sincere devotion, unto you, O Lord, then he gets the fruit of that devotion. Liberation? Now, he gets the vision of your beautiful adolescent form. In other words, you reveal yourself to him. Now what about mukti? That's the third line. Mukti swayam mukulitanjali sevate sman dharmartha kamagata yaksamiya patiksha. As far as mukti is concerned, she's waiting by the door with the anjali. Anjali is a mudra. right? We do the Pushpanjali. So the idea is that this is how, the devotees don't approach the Lord like this with the prayer, please give me this, please give me that. No, the hands are like this, and in here, your heart is in here. Or you can have flower, right? Pushpanjali. So Mukti, realizing that this devotee really doesn't care about me, but she still wants to serve him. So she's waiting by the door with the Anjali, Mukti Swayam Mukalitanjali Seva Desman, to give me herself. And as far as I know, from Dharma, Artha, and Kama, those are the other three of the four main things, right? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Whatever I need of Dharma, whatever I need of sense gratification, some prasadam, right? Or wealth, something to perform service. That's all, he's waiting with them. They'll also serve me. But I'm not asking for them. That's given by Krishna when he wants to. So this is the attitude of a pure devotee, that they're not really worried about the liberation, just like Lord Chaitanya is teaching us, but they simply ardently desire to be constantly engaged in the service of the Lord, whether in this body or next body or whatever it is. And in that attitude, Krishna is so merciful, he makes you so tolerant and able to maintain your consciousness in the most difficult circumstances. And we saw that with Srila Prabhupada in his 12 years of preaching after he came to America. So much tolerance, even before, on the way there and in India, everything. He just was so determined to follow the order of his spiritual master and make the best effort to go to America and preach in English and spread Lord Chaitanya's name all over the world. And so it seemed like an impossible thing, impossible story. And there he wrote on the Jaladuta, that famous prayer to be again situated and be following you in the fields of Vrindavan. But after he got to America and he departed in Boston, they got to Boston and he took a walk, and he saw, what the place it is and all that's going on. And he writes that Markani Bhagavat Dharma, which is such an important poem, a Bengali poem, and basically says, I don't know why you brought me to this horrible place. And if you want me to do, then you need to empower me to speak in such a way that they can understand, you see. In other words, it seemed like a hopeless task, but he wasn't giving up. He's going to persevere under the faith that Krishna will make arrangements somehow. And if you study if you read Lilamrita or other books, and that's the best one, most detailed. He went to Butler, Pennsylvania, which has become famous for another thing, which I will not mention in these quarters. But this obscure little town in western Pennsylvania. And there he stayed for a week or two, but he didn't want to stay there because he really couldn't make much headway. So he went to New York. You can imagine if Boston, he saw, New York is 10 times more imposing than Boston. So you know the story. He was able to get some shelter at Dr. Mishra's place, and wherever he went, he was trying to preach, chant Hare Krishna and preach. So finally, the roots, he was able to put down some roots in the Lower East Side where there was a receptive audience, and the rest is history, quite well. But Prabhupada showed the same qualities as this Ambarīṣa. And you think, you analyze what did Prabhupada do. You have some really nice descriptions of his daily activities in that Lilamrita and other places. So what he was doing, he was chanting all the time. He was always remembering Krishna. Savaimana Krishna Padara Vindayo, Vachangsi Vaikunta Gunanu Varnade. And wherever he went, he was, according to the audience, he was giving them as much as they could take of Krishna Katha, Bhagavad Gita classes and other things, and always speaking purely. And because of that, he's so very dear to Krishna, and he protected him in so many dangerous situations. And you may not know this, but I remember reading, when reading Lilamrita, he was in a head-on collision in Mauritius. They went to Mauritius, which is also driving on the left rather than the right lane. And some tourists had come from, I don't know where, but they were driving on the right. They come over a rise, and there's a car right in their lane. Luckily, neither of them was going that fast, although Prabhupada, and what was amazing, the devotees in the car, they saw Prabhupada brace himself before there was any indication there was going to be a crash. He had an intuition. Krishna told him, to watch out. So he was slightly injured, amazingly. But that's the kind of unexpected things happened all the time. And Prabhupada just went on. He wouldn't get scared. In 1970, the first Rath Yatra in San Francisco, and devotees had come from all over, and Prabhupada, was getting ready to go, but they got some warnings from the Black Panthers. I think we're free to. I don't think they're defunct. I think but now they were militant, Black Power. So they considered that whole park their territory. So they found out about our parade, and they said, "No, you can't go there. We'll prevent you." And they had guns, which I don't think they brought to the park, but they were rough. So they warned Prabhupada. They wrote a note, "You can't go," and Prabhupada said, "No, I'm going anyway." So this was another challenge. So the strategy was that they were driving him from the temple, the storefront, Frederick Street, to the park. And Garga Muni, I think it was, he took a roundabout route. He took and there was a fight at the beginning of that Rath Yatra. And they had the poles, that in Rath Yatra, some Indian ladies, they're old or something, rather than stay in the nursing home, they come out and they throw themselves under the wheels. This happens in Puri. And they were afraid it might happen, probably one of them might happen here, so you should get something to keep people away. So they had these big poles at the beginning. So with that, and they had some tough guys, they were able to, win that battle. And so Prabhupada, he came, and it was halfway, the procession had halfway gone already. And they lost Balaram's cart. Somehow this happened to the wheel, so there were only 2 carts. But Prabhupada came, and if you go on YouTube, and there's these wonderful things that following Srila Prabhupada. I forget which one it is, but there's a whole one that has half of it is all about that Rath Yatra. And it shows Prabhupada arriving, and he's dressed in these incredible, robes. And he started dancing. And everyone is going ecstatic. Hayagriva was playing the drum there. I guess he could play the drum. And it's a beautiful sight. And that was Prabhupada getting ready to get on Subhadra's cart and be in that Rath Yatra. So Prabhupada's, the whole adventure of his preaching was meeting these challenges and courageously facing them and teaching his devotees to depend on Krishna. That's the whole point. If you're actually sincerely serving and you're under some difficulty, it could be some, I don't know how to do this, cooking or something. But if you're really sincere, then Krishna will send you someone or some arrangement that you'll be able to perform the service and go on and increase your faith in Krishna. You can imagine Ambarīṣa. Now Ambarīṣa, he was obviously super empowered, much more than Durvāsā. He didn't eat for a whole year. He's waiting for his guest to return so that he won't eat before his guest. So after a year of him going to Vaikuntha, finally coming back and surrendering, then he has cooked him a nice prasadam, and he breaks the fast. Talk about a fast. That's quite a fast. But he was supernaturally empowered. He was a greater yogi much than Durvāsā. Although Durvāsā, all these powers of invoking the demon and flying everywhere, traveling through the airways. But it was nothing compared to Ambarīṣa's power. His power of tolerance and fasting, and mostly his purity of bhakti, even though he was a king. And the kings, of course, have all kinds of temptations and abilities to, cut corners and enjoy here and there, But he wasn't doing that. He constantly, Savaimana Krishna Padāravindeya, he has his mind on Krishna's lotus feet, his words were glorifying him, his hands were clean in the temple, those famous verses. They're quoted twice in the Bhagavad Gita. So anyway, there's a lot of lessons to learn from this, but the main is that if we actually surrender to Krishna and sincerely try to practice devotional service, then we'll be empowered to tolerate the inevitable vagaries of the material energy and maintain our devotional service, maintain our faith in Krishna. He'll see our sincerity and he'll make us stronger, and he'll provide us. And that's, this whole temple, when you think about how it came. By the way, I'm going to come and bring this one day. I have all kinds of, my apartment is like an archive for all kinds of books and magazines from many years ago. I happened to find a Janmashtami souvenir from 2000. It's now 25 years ago. And there was some wonderful articles in there. Prabhu, who's now Ashram Maharaj, wrote a beautiful essay on how this temple came to be, which I think many of you don't know, and I'm going to probably bring it, maybe I'll read it, maybe in one of my evening class or something. But so much sacrifice went into this temple. You know the stories about it. You've been around so long. Just getting this place, you know. And you can imagine, there was no kitchen here. It was just a big warehouse. What are they going to do? They built a kitchen right here. The kitchen was here, you see. And where's the water? There's no plumbing. So they had to get the water from next door to it was a defunct filling station, which is now like a little, you know, this little shopping center here with the bar and everything. So they had pipes, or they had, hoses coming from there to here. It was just so much austerity. But they were all enlivened, and they worked on these, you know, all the things that you see, you know, the carvings and so forth. You know Pradyumna, the original Pradyumna from here? He pointed out this anomaly in this painting. And that wasn't a painting. This is one of the little friezes, you know, Krishna's Leela. So there's Mother Yashoda. She's binding Krishna. But there's nothing that he's binding to. What did she bind him to? The big grinding mortar. There's nothing there. She's just tying him up, and he's... Anyway, it's not here but there. But the point is, they were working so hard with what they had, and all of this creativity and everything is so enlivening. It's unique, actually, in ISKCON. This temple, all of the varieties of decorations you'll find like this. So it was given to the Lord, and given to Prabhupada, and given to us, and anyone who comes here. This is a result of a great austerity by those devotees, and sincerity. So this is how we should, just like we had Thanksgiving, you know, obviously. And so I think, when I was reading the scroll, I think the first thing I said is, well, it's Thanksgiving it's every day is Thanksgiving in ISKCON, you know. And Chad was listening, our old friend Chad. He's back in Nebraska, another medical problem. But he heard that. And he typed, he texted me, he repeated it with a smiley face, you know. But that really is, and it's not just Thanksgiving Day, it's Thanksgiving moment to moment. What is that, if you come to Mangalartik, which you should all try to do, what's the first thing? Samsara dava nadalita loka tranaya karunya ganaganat. Right? All of us are suffering in the burning, blazing fire of this material world. But he's just like a cloud pouring down his mercy to put out that fire. And the idea is that you become able to tolerate because you're getting Krishna's mercy and, moment to moment, and you're enlivened. Just chanting Hare Krishna can be the most enlivening thing. It should be that we do. We develop it in such a way that we're completely absorbed in calling out to Krishna. And we're able to navigate this difficult material world, which is, it seems so much more dangerous than when I joined in 1989. It's just climate change. We didn't even know about climate change then. But no matter what happens, if we prioritize our Krishna consciousness, then Krishna will give us the facility to deal with it and become stronger in our devotion by tolerating this, tolerating that, and still continuing our service. So that's what Prabhupada set up. It's a whole facility, worldwide, for every spirit soul who's sincere, who's receptive to the message, and willing to take up the process to progress nicely and feel Krishna's blessing in the form of tolerance and in the form of peace and spiritual happiness. Isn't it wonderful to think if you become pure enough, you can chant Hare Krishna or so many other slokas, but be primarily the holy name, and be peaceful and happy in any circumstance. Even if you're 85 years old and you bedridden, whatever, you can still, if you're absorbed. I've been there at so many bedsides because they asked me to chant often, And it's so wonderful to see in many hospital rooms, devotees have gathered. I remember with Radhanath Prabhu, not the Swami, obviously. And he decided to go at a certain time. He was an amazing devotee. He was crippled. I mean, I knew him in Miami in '83 when he first arrived, and he had some problem, but he wasn't so immobilized. Then, anyway, eventually he was in a wheelchair and everything. But he would go out every day and distribute books, you know. And Balaram remembers very well getting his first book in a parking lot from him. He and his mother, they joined at the same time. He was there, and they were there. And the amazing thing is, the doctor said, you don't have to die now, you know. I mean, it's a serious thing, but, you know, you'll have to be on this breathing machine now all the time. I said, no, forget it. You know, he called me up and said, I'm leaving, you know, when can you come? He wanted me to come Friday. I said, no, I'm going to a lunch show that day. Can we? So he said, we'll do it Thursday then, you know. So then everyone came. And it's such an encouraging thing to see. And there's so many other devotees I won't name, you know, that, because I also saw the commies die. I lived for a year. I worked in a hospital as an inhalation therapist. I took so much oxygen, you know, emergency, go to this room, boom, boom, boom. But some people are just terrified, and they're practically all sedated, which is the worst thing when you die. You want to be fully conscious, even if it's tremendous pain, so because you can think of Krishna. But they're all sedated because it's so horrible. So this is what Prabhupada has given us, this process by which we can become real yogis, meaning always connected to Krishna through our thoughts, words, deeds, actions, everything. And the benefit, not only by going back to God, but even in this life, to be able to tolerate the difficulties and remain on an even keel and take inspiration from books like Srimad Bhagavatam and Ambarīṣa, and even Durvāsā, who turned out to be a good guy after all of this. Any comments, questions, discussions? Okay. Well, I'll do what I do in my evening class. I'll give you a little poem. Maybe that'll... So this is the prayer to Krishna to please never forget you. Okay? This is a famous prayer from Queen Kunti. You should read those prayers, Prabhupada loved them. So this is near the end of her prayer. She said, Tvaime ananya vishaya matir madhupate sakrit. Ratamun Vahatarandha Gange Vaugumadanvati. Oh, Madhu's Lord. She says, that's how she knows him, the Lord of the Madhus, you know. Oh, Madhu's Lord, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of thee and not any other kind, as Ganges' torrent flows into the sea, that all my love flow constantly to thee. And then there's one more in it. I won't give you, this is a whole song. I'll just give you the refrain line. This is by Rupa Goswami. And he says, Krishna Bhavandam Vande Manmanasamata Kadamha Payanita Patapankatamakadande. O Krishna, dearest Lord, I bow to you and then entreat, please place the bee in my restless mind in the honey of your lotus feet. Like that. If you want the rest of the song, you have to write me, Dravida 108, and I'll send you all my poems. I can even send you a recording of the thing. So, anyone online with a question, comment, objection? Okay. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.